All right, next, we have our attorney for MS Views and News, who does a lot of programs, obviously, with us as well. And Craig Dorne has come up from Miami to talk with you all about, by the way, I'm saying you all here, but like when I'm in the South, you only hear me saying y'all. Okay, so Craig Dorne. Craig Dorne's a practicing attorney from Miami, Florida, and he will be here to speak with you about caregiver rights, responsibilities, caring for the caregiver. Come on up, Craig. You got to come this way. You got to run.
I got a Charlie horse. Sitting too long.
You're here or you're here?
Right here. All right, I think it's good afternoon, at least almost good afternoon for everybody. How's everybody doing today? All right, I'm going to be here to talk to you about the things that nobody really wants to think about, nobody really wants to hear about, but that you all, as Stuart would say, need to hear about. I've been around the MS Views and News since its formation originally, helped Stuart take care of this organization, love to be here and speaking for you all, and want to sit down and help give you some information that most people really don't want to think about. And what does that really mean? Well, patients all know that they have rights. Most people don't realize that caregivers also have rights, but the question is, how do we really get the caregivers to have their rights? So we got a long list of things that's all put out by the government that educates the patient on what their rights are. Like the rights to be treated with respect, the right to not have discrimination, and don't worry about trying to take notes or anything. The PowerPoints will all be loaded up there for you on the website so you can get all that information as well. But we need to make sure we make informed decisions regarding our health care. We need to make sure that we really understand what it is that's going to be happening to us, what are the treatments that we're going to be receiving, and make sure that the doctor really gives us the time to get all of that information and put it forth. What I like to tell everybody to do as a patient or as a caregiver is to make sure we really understand what it is that's going on. How are things going to be taking place in the future? And to sit down and actually go to our doctors and go prepared with notes. Everybody talks about the MS brain, or they're having an MS moment, or whatever else it is. But really, let's make sure that we take those notes with us to make sure that we can address all the information and make sure our doctors give us the time to go through everything. Understand that not only do we have the right to get the information, but we also have the right to say no. Saying no is something that we learn early on in life, but it's something that we fail to do at times when we really need to take care of it. We also have to make sure that we have our Spanish language programs and everything also that Stuart arranges for. Make sure that we get the information available to us in a language that we also understand as well. Making sure that the doctor actually gives us our moments of privacy. Privacy is one of the biggest things that I like to give lectures on, and I speak to doctors about it frequently as I represent some physicians, because it's really not nice when we end up in an emergency room and other places and we have to go through things, but yet everybody that's around us also gets to hear what's going on. We do have the right to sit down and say, well, doctor, I wanted to address this information, but I need to do it in a fashion where I can really have my privacy and I can speak candidly. I think that's one of the biggest problems that you all really need to make sure that you address also. Voicing our complaints, being informed at the start of the services, even being advised at the start of the services as to what my financial responsibility is going to be. I'm sure everybody loves going, and then all of a sudden we get these great bills from the doctors afterwards. I know that's my favorite one that I get to hear about all the time. What about keeping our personal possessions? I mean, I don't know how many people have gone in and gotten treatment, and they come out, and all of a sudden they see things that are missing. I've heard about a bunch of these incidents in the past also. You lock it up in the locker. I went to actually one doctor's office with one of my family members that has MS, and we go in there and we see that it's great having all these lockers at this facility, but guess what? Every one of the lockers had the exact same key. That really does a good job, doesn't it? So I actually spoke with the people on the way out. I said, it's nice to provide these lockers, but do you realize that every one of them has the exact same code number on it, meaning that everybody's getting the same key? What about the patient responsibility itself? That's the one that you all don't really want to talk about. Well, it's great to have the information. It's great to know everything. But I have conversations with my family members all the time about, well, are you really telling your caregivers, your family members, and everything that's going on? How is a caregiver truly going to be giving you help if they do not know what it is that you are going through? And take a nice deep breath on that and think about it, because we all try to protect those around us. But are we really protecting those around us, or are we actually giving them more concern because they don't know what it is that you are going through? So you really need to make sure that your caregiver, whoever it is that you're talking to, whoever it is that you want to have help you, that they know exactly what it is that you are going through. Do they even know the medications that you are taking? And I would say virtually, if I did a survey out here in the crowd, I would say 90% of you or better are going to say that the caregivers have absolutely no idea what it is you're taking, how frequently you take it, and everything else also. How hard is it to put together a list and let them know what it is that you're taking and keeping that updated? It's not that difficult, but you really do need to do that. Otherwise, how are they going to take care of you when you are going through something? Now, what about making sure that the caregivers really have the power? This is my favorite thing to talk about, and I can guarantee you, again, that 90% of you have never truly given any type of legal authority for your caregiver to take care of you. Oh, this is my friend. They go to the doctor's office with me. You can talk to that person. Well, what happens when you can't sit down and tell the doctor that you're with that person that they have the right to do it? Do you know what it takes to really give somebody authority to assist you? Anybody have an idea? To know what it is and how you can sit down and give a caregiver the right to receive your information. And everybody always says the power of attorney, but the power of attorney is a heck of a scary form, and I'm going to get into that one in a little bit. That scares the heck out of me. The healthcare surrogate forms. You really need to sit down and comply and make sure you make that person, that caregiver, by giving them a legal document to give them authority to sit down and actually make decisions for you, help you with decisions, receive information. It is probably the most important document that you can ever have created. Now, a lot of times, the only time you really see these forms is if you're admitted to a hospital. They sit down and they have you start filling out all those forms. But realize also, when these people are putting these forms in front of you, understand what those forms really say. I love when I go to a doctor's office and they say, here, sign this, sign this, sign this, sign this. And everybody signs this, and signs this. And one of those is like always your HIPAA privacy policies and procedures, but how many of the doctor's offices really have them in a place where you can see them and understand what it means that you're signing? Understand that HIPAA form also not only gives that doctor the information, but they also have all these other people that might get your information, like they might have outside billing companies, all of these other things. Understand what it is that you are signing. When I teach a contracts class, I love going through my students and having conversations with them and say, hey, what does it mean when you do all this? Oh, I just sign it, I sign it. I remember I signed my son up one time for a gym membership, and I just signed once. And then all of a sudden I see that the contract's signed, the credit card authorization is signed, and everything else. How did I sign when I only put my signature into this little computerized thing once? Well, understand what it is that you are doing and understand what the rights are that you're giving somebody. And the healthcare surrogate form is a form that you should have, and it should be provided to that surrogate to give them the authorization to really do things on your behalf when you cannot. Now, the power of attorney form is going to be my favorite one. We're going to go over that one in a few minutes because people love to sign power of attorneys. When they hear this phrase about a durable power of attorney, it's a great form. Yeah, it is a great form. It gives the person the right to make medical decisions. Guess what? It gives them a lot of other authority that you may not want to give that person. So what does a healthcare surrogate mean? That means that that person is your caregiver. That person means that that person has the legal authority to sit down and actually speak on your behalf, to do things on your behalf, to get your medical information. And it's whatever that person needs to do for you, nothing more. That does not give them the right to go over to your bank and close out your bank account. Guess what a power of attorney might very well do? You come back out of the hospital, and guess what? All your stuff is gone, and the person just took off to Brazil, and they're enjoying their life. A surrogate is that person, that healthcare person that you're giving your legal authority to over medical decisions. Now, guess what? We have all of these great attorneys that are out there. What are attorneys good for? A lot of different things, but they also are very good at making money, a lot of them. And you can go sit down and you can speak to your probate or guardianship attorneys and the people that do those kind of things, and they love to sit down and give you these healthcare surrogate forms. Guess what, people? Does anybody know that the Florida bar, for those of you here in Florida, sorry for those in other states, but you might have it as well in your state, that you can go actually onto the Florida bar website And you can download a healthcare surrogate form at the whopping cost of free. So you can sit down and get that healthcare surrogate form by most likely in almost every state by going to the bar website, putting in whatever state you're in, and seeing if you can find those forms for free of charge. A very simple website called floridabar.org. It's here in Florida. Go on there, get those forms. You can also get other forms for free of charge, prepared by attorneys that do know what they're doing because they are board-certified attorneys in healthcare law, and they can design those forms for you. So save yourself a couple of $100 and not go to the attorney to get that form. Other forms you may need to go to the attorney for, but for your healthcare surrogate form and also for your living will, another form that I'm going to go over in a few minutes, you can get those free of charge as well. And what that means is you're giving somebody who has to be over the age of 18, sorry, if you have a 16-year-old that happens to be very bright, that can help you out and go to all these appointments and drive you there. You might trust them implicitly, but guess what? They cannot legally make that decision for you because they do need to be over the age of 18. And what that healthcare surrogate form is, gives the full legal rights and power to make medical decisions for you. That also gives them the right to be treated as if they were the patient. So all those great rights that I covered a few minutes ago, that healthcare surrogate will also now have that right to be treated without discrimination, to act as your advocate, and to do all of those things that they need to do in order to take care of you without any other authorization. That means that healthcare surrogate form does not give them the power, as I said before, to go close out your bank accounts and do other things for you. They have the right to express the opinions of the patient. What does that mean, as I said before? The patient has the responsibility? Well, that patient has the responsibility to truly express what it is that they want to have accomplished and to do it as the patient wants. So what does that mean to me? That means that you need to make sure that the person you are choosing to be your healthcare surrogate is somebody that is going to do what you want. I have a family member that will sit down and say that she has expressed every one of her wishes completely to her family member. She knows darn well that her husband will not do one thing that she wants to have done because all he cares about is himself. That means I don't care about the pulling the plug, the living will, and all those other things. No, you are not going anywhere. I'm keeping you around for the rest of the life. And after you pass away, you're going to be stuffed and you're going to be put on my mantle and you're going to be staying there for the rest of your life because you need to be with me every moment of every day. He is 100% dependent upon his wife. Is that the person you want to make your healthcare advocate? Is that the person you're going to give that healthcare surrogate form to? No. That person might be the world's greatest person in the world, but if they are not going to comply with your wishes, do not make that person your surrogate. Realize that if that person may be your spouse and your child will comply with your wishes, the spouse is going to be the person that the doctor is going to listen to unless you have really completed that form. Once you complete that form, the spouse is going to be saying, I'm sorry, sir, your wife has already filled out this form and given the power to your son, your daughter, her first cousin, her attorney, whoever it is that they want. I'll have plenty of time for Q&A, don't worry. I'll get to every one of you. Stuart's going to have to drag me off the stage. Stuart actually one time was ready to shoot me. I think it was the last time I gave my presentation because I sat down and I just pretty much threw apart the PowerPoints and I said, let's just turn this thing into a Q&A, and I think we went on for about 14 hours. I have no problem speaking if you don't realize that already. The only problem is talking at a speed that's not the speed of my Brooklyn roots. So what does it mean to be a healthcare surrogate? That means you have created a fiduciary obligation with the patient and you are now obligated to comply with that person's wishes. As a fiduciary, and if you do things that are against what the patient wants, the patient may actually even have the right to sue you. So be very careful also that if you're accepting these powers and you're being given this authority, that you do it the way that you are supposed to be doing it. It's a person that has to be treated with total trust. So make sure you get the person, as I said 100 times, that will comply with what you want. Does that person need to be a family member? No. It can be anybody that you want. Can the person be paid? Yes. Does the person have to be paid? No. So understand and get that person who complies with what it is that you want. What about some of these other great forms, advanced directives? I say that probably only 10% of the population has really taken care of their advanced directives. Again, all these forms get done, great time at admission to the hospital, but a lot of these things should be done long before you get admitted to a hospital. Realize that the laws do vary from state to state. I'm speaking to you all. I have to do the caveat that I forgot to do at the beginning. I am a licensed attorney, but I'm solely licensed to practice in the state of Florida, so I cannot express any legal opinions on the laws of any other state. But know that the laws of every other state are pretty similar. So what I'm saying hopefully will hold true in your state as well. But the terms and the phrases of what you will see in some of the states, like here in Florida, we talk about a healthcare surrogate. In some of the other states, that person's called a healthcare proxy. So what you hear might vary from state to state, but the forms will be very similar. Advanced directives can be changed. Your healthcare surrogate can be changed. So as your opinions in life, or as your disease might progress more, your opinions might start to change. Make sure you update your documents. It's great to sit down and give a surrogate. Well, I've seen documents that were created back in the 1960s. Well, guess what? I think it's time to get them updated. Are those people even still around? I know a lot of people who are single, may not be married. Well, it's great to give that power to your parent, but your parents may pass away before you or whatever else it is. It doesn't do a lot of good to have a power in somebody that is no longer around or that is no longer capable of handling those things for you as well. So please keep track of what it is you do and make sure that you update the forms from year to year. Even the laws may start changing. There's been a lot of updates in the laws dealing with power of attorneys and other forms also that show that you should sit down and actually update those forms to understand and make sure they comply with what the current laws are. We have a variety of things. I mean, do not resuscitate orders, great, if you complete the form. If you don't complete the form, guess what? You might be sitting there and hooked up to a lot of devices that you don't want to be hooked up to. Your living will forms, again, available on the Florida Bar website for free of charge. It works well for you if you're in the state of Florida, but please do not download the Florida Bar form if you're located in Tennessee. Go to Tennessee and use your forms. They may vary. Now, some of us do travel. We have a lot of snowbirds here in Florida. Realize if you are a resident of the state of Florida and you go back up to the north in the summer because you can't take our Miami heat or our Orlando heat, whatever it is that you don't like, and you go back up there, the forms are still going to be valid when you do travel up there, as long as you are a primary resident of the state of Florida. When you complete these forms is also very important. Why? Because you're not of sound mind when you complete the forms. Guess what? The forms don't mean anything. It's nice when you bring somebody inside there, that person might be still capable of signing their name, but they have no idea what they're signing. It's not going to be effective. It's also very important that you give copies of the forms to your doctor. How many of you have really ever addressed with your neurologist what your opinions are and what you want to have done? Not seeing a lot of hands going up. Wouldn't it be nice to sit down and actually give copies of all of the forms on your living will, your healthcare surrogate, and everything else, not only to the hospital when you get admitted, but to your primary care doctor so they can speak to people on your behalf? And again, only give those powers if you want to give that power to the person, because you don't want your kids calling if you're trying to keep things hidden from your kids. So we got the forms of the living will, we got the DNR, we got organ donation forms, all of these great forms. Complete them, please, and use them for what you want. The one that scares me the most is this great form called a power of attorney. A power of attorney can give the person the power to do virtually everything on your behalf. Sell your house, turn off your internet, go to your bank account and take everything out, and take advantage of you for every minute that you continue to remain alive. So please, only use a power of attorney form for a person that you trust. Realize also that you have powers that are very different. I have people that I would trust implicitly with my money. And I have some of those same people that I would not trust at all to make a healthcare decision for me, because they would not honor my wishes. You can sit down and give different people different levels of authority. You can have a healthcare surrogate form. You can go through a power of attorney form and you can sit down and say the person can do A, B, and C, but they're damn well not allowed to do D, E, and F. So you can actually go through a form. I've created a power of attorney form that I use for my clients that I require every single power to be broken down and initialed. So that you can say the person can do this one, and this one. No, I don't like that one. I don't want them having that. Take that power out of that person. But there are great forms that we find online. I love the internet because it shows how stupid people really are. You get these great things that are out there. Wikipedia knows everything. Wikipedia is an open source. When I teach my students, guess what? I say if you cite to Wikipedia, you get an automatic F on your assignment. And I can't tell you how many people I have failed for giving me an assignment citing to Wikipedia, because Wikipedia is not always right. It's an open source platform. It's out there. It gives information. It gives a lot of right information, but it also gives a lot of wrong information. You have these computer-based things that people see on the internet all the time. You need this legal form? Come to us. We can create these documents for you. It sounds great, but realize that all that is a form, and they're just helping you fill in the blank. Do you think that the form that was created for Joe is the exact same form that Mary wants? Let's get real, people. Get a document that is drafted to what it is that you want, and don't sit down and pay the $9.95 and think that it's really going to give you what you want. A will that you're getting for $10, $20, $50 is probably not going to comply with what you want. Those are the things that you really want to go to the attorney. Your power of attorneys, go to an attorney and specifically say what it is that you want and let them customize a document that complies with what you want. That is not a form that you want to get off of the internet. Or the next thing you know, your third cousin, twice removed, shows up at your house, has this great power of attorney that you thought was just to make a medical decision for you on a 5-minute basis. You're going there with me. You come back out, you find out that all your money is gone, and they're down in Tijuana having a blast. So please be careful with those forms and get the forms that take care of what you want. Only get them if they're only to make medical decisions. That healthcare proxy, that healthcare surrogate form to make medical decisions and nothing else. Do not give them a durable power of attorney because it's going to give them far more power. Living wills, again, as I said on that Florida Bar website, choose what it is that you want. The form is there. But that doesn't mean you agree with every one of the decisions. I may have a terminal condition. Well, what does that really mean? Just because I have a terminal condition, does that mean that I don't want to sit down and still try to be resuscitated? I still want to be rescued? I still want to stay alive? Do I have the end-stage renal disease, in which case it's a little bit different? Or am I in a persistent vegetative state? And then for I do not want to have these life-sustaining devices maintained? Make sure you express what it is that you want. And you can see that I've taken a little bit of a form over here also. You can initial which ones that you want to give the power for. Don't just sign. Make sure you really understand what it is you're signing and what it means. DNRs we went over. But the power of attorney form is what I really want to sit down and scare the life out of you on. Because it can do so much. I use power of attorneys all the time. If I'm doing a real estate closing where somebody may say, okay, I want this person just to sign and do this closing on the property for me. I'm going to be traveling. Let them sign the documents for me. But that's just simply to sit down and do that very limited purpose and nothing else. I do not want them to do the other things. I have clients that come to meet with me, and we have to create these power of attorney forms because they're going to be traveling. They're going to be out of the country for a long period of time. What if something happens to me? Since I like to scare people, I like to scare my clients all the time also, I says, well, okay, you want to give your son this power. Okay, you're gone. Do you trust your son implicitly with absolutely everything? And if I even have a slight pause, I says, well, would it be smart for you to sit down and create and give these documents over, but maybe have somebody else hold that document and only give it out if truly something does happen? It's great also when I talk to my clients and they grade all these documents, their wills, their living wills, and everything else, and then they lock it up in their safety deposit box. I can't tell you how many people lock all these great documents in their safety deposit box. Well, how are they supposed to help you if they can't get into your safety deposit box to actually get the documents out? It's nice to have them safe, but they can't be that safe that the person can't get into the safe. So be careful with what it is that you're doing. You may want to share these documents. You may want to sit down and have an attorney that you hire to sit down and hold the documents for you. You may want to have the person that you trust with your healthcare decisions hold the powers for the financial person, but not give those powers to the financial person unless it's really necessary too. Think of what it is that you want to accomplish and how you can best accomplish it, and use your power when you are healthy enough to make the decision. You do not want to make decisions on all of these things when it's at a time of crisis. Everybody procrastinates. When I first graduated law school and started working at one of my law firms, I was called in and I felt like I was physically interrogated by one of the partners inside of the firm, asking me all of these personal questions. And I'm saying, why am I doing this? Do I really have the power to say, I'm not really interested in talking to you? And I was a timid lawyer at that time. It has changed since then. I'm not very timid about anything anymore. And I was afraid to say no and not answer these questions. And about a half an hour later, she says, well, okay, I need for you to make an appointment now to come in with your wife because I've just got all the information for you to create your will. Because she knew that 90% of the lawyers also are a bunch of idiots and don't do the documents that they need to have done. And she was right. I was already married at this point in time. I already had a child and everything else, and I had no will ever created. I'm invincible. I'm young. Well, invincibility is a limited process, and I have a family member who's young also and suffering from MS and deals with the situations on a daily basis also. But we have, I can say honestly, all of our documents are in a row because of a very nice attorney that brought us in and started saying, here it is, answer the questions when you can. I don't care if you're still in debt from your student loans and everything else, you still have other things that you need to take care of. I may not be the wealthiest person in the world, or you may not be the wealthiest person in the world, but we all have things that we care about. And we can sit down for a not too expensive price with a lawyer, get many of these documents prepared, and you can, even if you don't want to sit down and do that, at least get those other forms that are free to you and complete them. Now for a few minutes before I sit down and go into the Q&A, I want to talk to you a little bit about the Family Medical Leave Act. We have a lot of powers. Unfortunately, the government at times doesn't do anything right, but there are times when they actually do things that are correct. It's rare. It does happen that we actually can get the House and the Senate and everybody to come together and reach an agreement and create some legislation that means something and that helps people. The Family Medical Leave Act is a very powerful act and gives a lot of power. It gives us time off, not only for the person who is sick, but for family members to be able to do certain things. But I don't want you to think that the Family Medical Leave Act gives everybody all protection and that everybody is treated equally under it. Because certain employers are small, and therefore they do not have to comply with the FMLA also. It only applies to larger employers. Because rest assured, if you're working in a small mom and pop grocery store, they can't just sit down and say, go take off, don't worry about it, and still have your job when you come back. So understand what the state and federal legislation is. Also realize that you have protections on a federal basis, but you also have protections that are given to you on a state basis. I heard some comments about employment law and everything else and disability law. We do have other speakers besides me that are lawyers that come and speak before the organization. Lisa is an incredible speaker that spoke on a lot of things. Please go onto the web channels and take a look at some of the things so you can learn about Social Security disability claims and how you can get some of those things and get yourself to be protected as well. She is incredibly bright. She's taken care of a lot of people. She's even taken care of some of my clients for me because she specializes in doing that, and talk to her. Take the opportunity to speak and look and listen to those videos to see what it is if you are in the need of any of those things. And with that, let's jump to a Q&A. I know people usually have a lot of questions. And guest assured, the best thing is everything is free of charge here also. I'm not charging 1 minute for you of any time, and I will be glad to speak to you about anything. And if it's not on topic, I will be standing outside also, and I'll be glad to talk to you about everything because I love to show how much I know.
Okay, I'll walk around. Just raise your hand.
Okay, talking about the healthcare surrogate, it is possible to share. Example, a son lives in Boston somewhere, and you have a caregiver here in Florida taking care. So the son in Boston has the surrogate, but the caregiver here doesn't. So
It's not going to do you a lot of good, is it?
You really? So I'm trying to see if any partial maybe of that surrogate can be
What
shared.
you can't, you do not want to create a healthcare surrogate form that says, I give my power to John and Mary. Because what happens if John and Mary do not agree? What you can do is you can create two healthcare surrogate forms, one to John and one to Mary. So when Mary is here, she has the power. And when John's here, John has the power. But you cannot sit down and give a joint power, which means that they're going to have to get a hold of both parties and get both parties to agree on your decision. I strongly encourage, if you have a healthcare surrogate, that it's probably best not to have that person be out of state. It may be a necessity. And get the person on the phone, but then the doctors also run into questions. Okay, I'm talking to so-and-so on the phone. How do I know I'm really talking to so-and-so? It's a little bit scary. I mean, I know doctors do it, then doctors do it because they have no choice. But we're not at the point where we have our phone over here where the person can sit down and say, doctor, here's my photo ID, and here you can look at it while I'm talking to you on the phone. It's really me that I'm talking to. What the doctors will generally try to do is if you have a healthcare surrogate form and you've given it to them, what they will probably try to do is say, okay, I will call the number on the healthcare surrogate form that I have and ask for John so that I can speak to John. But if John's going to call in, technically what I tell the doctors is somebody's calling you and saying they're John, do not take the call. Call that person back based upon the documentation that you have, because otherwise you may not really be talking to the person who you need to talk to.
Yes, my question is, how often do you need to change your paperwork?
The truth of the matter is you never need to change it unless there's a change in your circumstances. But if the forms are very old, I'm meaning like more than 10 years old for a power of attorney, the laws have changed in 10 years. You may want to update your power of attorney. You also may want to sit down and make sure that that power of attorney really says what you want it to say. Because I can virtually guarantee, I can say in the old days when I first started practicing law, and I've been doing this now for over 25 years, the power of attorney form that I used to have used to be on probably 3/4 of a page, on a single page of a document. My current form that I use is probably about 12 pages in length. And why do I do that? The power of attorney, well, I would tell everybody in this room to go onto the Florida Bar website, since you're all living here in Florida, and get those forms and use those forms that are online. They've been updated over the years. They're free of charge. Honestly, will take you probably less than 10 minutes to complete. Spend the 10 minutes, get forms that you know that comply with the current law. I don't know how old your forms are, but why do I make that power of attorney so long? Because I have broken down every power that I can possibly think of. And I had my associate at the time say, look at a bunch of other power of attorney forms that I've seen from some other law firms over the year that I happen to respect, and see if there's anything that you miss. And I want to break it down paragraph by paragraph by paragraph and make sure that every power is in and of itself and just initial the ones that the person wants. So I actually created an initial form next to every single paragraph to make sure that people really know. One, it saves me from some liability, and two, it also will save that patient from liability in the future if somebody doesn't do something that the person wants to have. Because if somebody abuses that power, you do have the right to sue them, assuming they haven't taken off to Brazil, Tijuana, or someplace else, and now you have to sit down trying to find them.
Does it need to be notarized?
Not every document needs to be notarized to be enforceable. Not every document does. The power of attorney form needs to be notarized. Your healthcare surrogates forms do not require notarization. No, they don't. They are valid forms without a notary. Some people create the forms with the notary. Would I prefer to have it notarized? Yes, but it is not a legal requirement.
Question, where does a person go to find these forms?
For the living will and for the healthcare surrogate form, you can go to the Florida Bar website, floridabar.org, and it's free of charge. You can find it on the internet. We'll just put in Florida form living will, Florida Bar form living will. If you put it into a little Google search, Yahoo search, or whichever Bing you use, you'll find those forms and they're there for you.
Okay, my question is, we didn't discuss anatomical donation.
Yes. Organ donation.
Or donating your body to research.
If you want to do that, there are forms that are available. There are people that love to sit down and do those things. It depends upon your religious, personal opinions and things like that.
Well,
it is a great thing to do, but again, You want to sit down and do what you want to do, not what your family
Well, I
wants to do.
did it, but I didn't do it. I did it through a funeral director that I know personally, and I know there's a process that comes along with it. Especially if you do the paperwork, and if you're single, you happen to be married, everything changes when that happens. Because they will not accept your body. And if you're Puerto Rican and you carry all them last names, all that has to go into paperwork, because they will not. It'll be a hassle if something happens to you, and they won't take the body. I learned that too.
What I encourage people to do when they're doing those things, it's like with the same process for a will or other documents. What I tell my clients to do is make sure you bring your identification, have them notarized, and actually attach a copy of the identification to it so that the lawyer or whoever's helping you prepare it will have all those last names and make sure that it complies with what the person's legal name is. And if you have 4 or 5 last names, I actually have seen some of the people that have the names that are that long. Make sure that it complies with what it is that's on your passport, because that's really going to be the best form if you have a passport. If not, your birth certificate, whatever those forms are, make sure that you have something that's there. And I tell my clients to actually attach a copy of the identification to it so that people can't really question it.
With the Family Leave Act, my sister and I are both divorced, so we don't have a spouse, and all of our children are out of state. So we are each other's supporter. The Family Leave Act does not work for us because it's not a relationship that they recognize, sibling to sibling. So what can we do?
Hope you have a nice boss. I wish I can give you some better news than that one. It is there are problems. Not every legislation and every act is perfect. But there are things that can be done, but that does not mean that the person is going to, or the organization is going to comply with it. You can look under state law. I'm not an expert on FMLA, but there are some state laws that also provide some forms of protection. A lot of those things are also dependent upon the size of the employer. The larger the employer is, the more powers that you do have. But for small employers, they also do need to protect the employers to say that, well, I can't sit down and have you have to hold a job open when we only have 5 or 6 employees. Yes.
How, if possible, can you overturn or change an existing power of attorney?
A power of attorney can be revoked upon 5 minutes' notice. Make sure you comply and you actually send a certified letter to the person hereby saying, I'm hereby providing you notice that I have revoked your power of attorney. But the problem is, you don't necessarily know that that person is going to comply with that. You will have the ability to sue that person, but it's dangerous to give these powers out to people. I mean, I actually had one of my clients that I had to refer to a divorce attorney because the wife took off and cleaned out every asset that the person had and went back to another foreign country. And the divorce actually had to be done by publication because they could never find the spouse. So powers can be dangerous. Things do change over time, whether it be your parents, spouse, child. I mean, you need to make sure that you know what it is that you're giving, and that's why I personally hate power of attorney forms, especially if you're giving these what I'll call blanket durable power of attorney forms that are out there, giving the person the power to do everything. But a power of attorney can be revoked upon 5 minutes' notice. Here it is. I send out the notice. I send it to you by email, send it certified mail so you have proof that you revoked it, and keep a copy of your return receipt and everything else over there, because if you're pulling that power of attorney away, there's a reason for it. But you can give it from John one day, you can give it to Mary the next. I mean, you can vary it. And I have people that have created and given several power of attorney forms that are out, trusting that the kids are each going to comply or agree or whatever else it might be. But it is a document of extreme trust and extreme power.
Over here.
Hi, I get my health care through the VA, and they had me, when I started there, fill out a bunch of forms relating to this. Most of them were about do not resuscitate, you know, how far along do they want to go before, do I want to go before I give up? Or how legal or how wide do those apply inside the VA or outside?
Well, the problem you have is it's great to have those powers, and it's great to have the VA and a lot of the hospitals do those things. But realize that the VA does not copy those documents and send it to every one of your doctors. You can ask for them to give you copies of it so that you can share it with your primary care doctors and your other doctors or your family members. It's great that the organizations do this. I love that hospitals do it. I just wish that they would not sit down and do it to you when you're under the pressure, and they'd actually have people that have the ability to explain the forms to you. I know that that's not real. But if you have the forms and you're going to spend the time to get them done, make sure you get them to other people that also need them. Because a lot of people that get treated in the VA have primary care doctors and other doctors that are not part of the VA that are also part of their care. So get those documents to those other providers so that they actually have the ability to help you comply with what your wishes are. And I would virtually guarantee you that the power forms that you've completed at the VA are fully valid, enforceable, and proper documents. They do happen to have brilliant lawyers that work within the VA and other organizations as well to make sure that the forms are there and they're current, but it only helps while you're there. It doesn't help when you're out of there.
Okay, before the next question, I know a lot of you are eating right now, and you might want to get up and depart afterwards, although we don't want you to because Jeff will get angry with you. But you were all given seminar evaluation forms, and we hope that you're using that before you forget to, mark something down about somebody that has spoken. So please remember to turn those in, and then we'll know that you're not here for the raffle too, okay?
My question is about a general will. My husband and I don't have one. What is the best way to go about getting one, and is there options besides going to a personal attorney?
There are options, but there are online forms and entities that you can go to that can help you complete a will. I am not a big believer in the entities that have the online forms because all they are is a form. And all they're going to be doing is asking you general questions, spouse's name, children's name, and other things. But all they can do is fill in the blank in a form. They are not going to be treating you as if you went to an attorney that's going to be asking you a lot of questions and making sure that it truly complies with every one of your wishes. So I'd love to say there are ways I love to save you money, which is like the living wills and the durable power of attorneys form. I should say the living will and the healthcare surrogate forms that you can get for free online. But for a power of attorney or a will, I hate to say it, the best way really to get it done is to find an attorney that will do it. But there are a lot of attorneys that are out there that do not charge a lot of money for doing some of those type of documents. But if you don't have the ability or don't have the resources to sit down and pay for an attorney, at a minimum, I would honestly go online and get one of those forms if that's your best choice that is available for you.
By the way, again, before we go to the next question, for those seminar evaluation forms, Jennifer is not on there. You don't have to look for where to find to put her down, all right? She wasn't part of our speaking bureau today.
She's the unscheduled speaker.
Right.
And so we have a question back there also, I don't know if you saw.
Great.
Okay, we talk about, remember the power of attorney that you can take somebody, but what happens when you have maybe 2 people, 3 people in that power of attorney, for example, 2 sisters, okay? And then you decide to take one off. Can you do that, or you have to do the whole thing all over again?
A power of attorney form, if it is done correctly, will be specific for only one individual. You are not going to be creating a power of attorney that says, I hereby give my sisters, I was going to say Peter, Paul, and Mary. It doesn't really work that way, but
They have both,
I guess I was showing my age.
both names are there.
My first concerts do go back to Frank Zappa days and Janis Joplin and everything else, but you do not want to create a power of attorney that gives multiple people a power in a single document. You would want to have a power of attorney form for each person. That way you revoke that one person so it doesn't affect the ones that you may have given to somebody else.
No, in this case, it's like, if this not is available, this one then will make the decisions.
Okay, if it's there listed as alternatives, if you're taking away one of those alternatives, you are going to have to do a new form because you can't revoke a line inside of a power of attorney form. You would have to create a new form.
And then, like we talk outside, if somebody in a hospital, put a situation, want to use that power of attorney to any decision, but then in another the person who gave you the power doesn't want her decision, she can just rebut.
You can revoke it.
Okay.
Yes, but the best way to revoke it is actually in a written form revoking that power, and I would like to have it sent certified mail. But you have to do with what you can. If not, sit down and bring a few people in the room and say, I'm giving you notice that I hereby revoke so-and-so's power of attorney to sit down and act over me. But I would really hope that you're not relying upon for your healthcare decisions a power of attorney form. Please use that healthcare surrogate form for making healthcare decisions. The power of attorney forms will have that inside there, but I would really rather you rely upon for your healthcare decisions a healthcare surrogate.
Yes. Organ donations.
Yes.
Can you stipulate who gets your organs or who doesn't, as far as like I want certain individuals to get it and not.
There are forms that can sit down and use that. It's very rare that that does take place. But I was watching, I think it was either Grey's Anatomy or one of the other things, but you can make a direct donation of an organ to a specific person. So these things are there and they are proper, but there's really not a way to do that in advance, because how are you going to know that that person really needs that organ? They can't keep it viable forever.
You're going to have to repeat what he's saying now.
I will. If you want to limit the type of person that can receive your organs, you would have to really look at the forms. I'm not really an expert on organ donation, unfortunately. But there are forms that are out there, but I'm saying I don't think they really have that much of a screening process to know whether the person is really a drug addict. The person may have had come in as a result of a DUI, but not really be a drug addict. How do you define whether the person is? It may be a person that had a temporary lapse of decisions, been under pressure, and drank too much that day. So I'm saying it's really difficult to do it, and there's really not a way to call, because you can't really define something that specific. Okay, Stuart, back on your side, I think.
I was going to comment on the lady that was looking for a will. Here in Orange County, 3 times a year, the Senior Bar Association holds a seminar at the public library downtown to help you write a general will. It's a free seminar. You don't have to pay anything, but it's just a general will.
Now, again, that's the type of thing that's probably be a little better than what you're going to find online.
Well, it's done by retired attorneys.
But they do have there's a lot of organizations that are out there, senior centers and other things that do have powers where they have people. Like Stuart asked me to come speak on their behalf. There are a lot of things, and you can sit down and you can contact your legal aid society. You might be able to sit down and say, I don't know, the Orange County Legal Aid Society, and they may be able to help put you in place. You may also be able to contact the Florida Bar, has a referral hotline number that you can call, where they have other attorneys and other people, and you can sit there and say that it's a financial situation. You might be able to use some of those organizations to get you either a free will or a discounted will. There are things that are out there, but again, I would really encourage people for such things as power of attorney forms and wills to really go to an attorney and not rely upon something online.
Can you talk about ADA a little bit? What does it mean they're grandfathered in so they can't do anything about it? For example, I live in a condo, and they say, well, we are grandfathered in for such and such.
The ADA, or the Americans with Disability Act, does give certain things, but certain buildings were completed at a period of time prior to the law becoming effective. Some things the law requires you to change regardless of situation. But there are historic buildings that they have that are located like on Miami Beach that they cannot make a change to make that building comply with the ADA, and it's grandfathered in and protective. There are hotels and other things where I've sat down and I've seen lawsuits that go against them requiring to put lifts into the swimming pools and stuff like that, where they have to make it accommodate to the current ADA requirements. But some buildings may claim that they're grandfathered in and really not be.
So how do you go about it?
You would actually have to contact an ADA attorney that can sit down and look into some of the information to see if there is the ability to do it. But in many cases, there are buildings that it would not be what they call financially viable to have to put in an elevator. So there are buildings that are out there that will never get an elevator inside it, regardless of the ADA, because they can't do it because of the design of the building or the financial cost of it. There are factors that work into it. So the ADA is protective, but it's not 100% protective of everybody. And there are reasons why a building may not have to come and comply with the current version of the ADA because it was built so many years ago, and that they can't financially or viably do it to make it accommodate the needs. Because it does as much as it can. It really can't do any more. But in theory, some buildings they would have to physically demolish and rebuild in order to get it to comply with the current version of the ADA, and they can't make somebody do that.
For example, I live in a condominium, and the clubhouse is up like 20 steps, 25 steps, and they will not put an elevator or one of those sitting seats to go upstairs, and that's where they have the Christmas parties, any social thing. So somebody like me and a lot of other people like me who live there cannot attend.
Without knowing the specifics about your building, there's really no way to say whether they would be required to accommodate, but the question is, they may have to put a sitting step in because that might be financially viable and that's something that they could do. Mere fact that somebody says that the ADA and I'm grandfathered in, I hate to tell you, people lie. I mean, I have clients that come to me and they've lied to me. So I'm their attorney. Everything's protected, and they still lie to me. So you don't just because somebody tells you that doesn't mean it's the fact. You may want to actually find an ADA lawyer that's in your area, because the advantage of the ADA is if the person did lie to you, they may have the ability to sue the association and get them to comply, and they have to pay for the legal fees. You may not be loved in your condo after that, but they may have to make the accommodations.
Excuse me, but actually, in reference to your question, man, the federal fair housing law carries forth into that setting more so than the ADA. The ADA applies where the public goes, okay? The ADA applies where the public goes. The federal fair housing law applies to your setting, and because it's a general access setting, it would have to be made accessible under federal fair housing.
But there is grandfathering in even under the FHA as well. So you would have to sit down and see with it. But your situation, I would think you might actually have some protections because there might be some ability to get that done. You can also contact your local county and sit down and tell them of the problems you're going through, and they might give you some free advice also.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you, Craig. Another good talk, don't you think? You all liked it? Great. Right, so Craig will be here at the end of the program. For anybody, wait till after the program is over, and then Craig will be out there to answer any questions that you might have. Okay? Next up, and our last speaker of the day, other than me then speaking again, is Jeff Segal. And Jeff has he's been in the Orlando area before with us, and he's been in the Orlando area without us, and he just gets around, they say. So Jeff does travel around the state of Florida with us, and we know that this kind of program does benefit many people, many people. You can't just listen to it, though. There's so many people that I find that think he's got great advice, and they try it while they're at the program, but then they do nothing else about it except complain that they're still in pain, but they have done nothing to do what he's going to teach you to do. So if you really want to get the benefit of it, try actually doing it tomorrow, the day after that. Try it for a month and see how it works out for you. And if it works out great, then you can call me and say, thank you, Stu, for letting me listen. All right. Come on, Jeff. I can't talk all day.
Yeah, you can. We all know that.
I don't want to talk all day.
Okay.
Anybody got any good jokes? No? You're done.
Good. I don't need the mic. Of all the introductions I've ever had in my life, that by far was the most recent. How are you guys doing? You guys having a good day? You guys enjoying the program? We all have something in common here, right? Nobody in the room knows what I'm going to say. So, do you guys know what the purpose of this is? I'm going to talk about fatigue. I'm going to talk about pain. But I'm going to talk about you guys, and I want you guys to be a part of it because this program is about you. And how many people in here have MS or are with someone who has MS? Okay, here we go. I already got some participation. That's the very most important thing that I wanted to do when I came in here. How many people have pain associated with their MS? How many people in here want to leave with $1 million? Haha, I haven't seen anyone raise their hand that high yet. How about fatigue? Fatigue, we have fatigue. How many people in here, and I want you to look around carefully. I want you to raise your hand if you do not have MS. Now keep your hands up. Now the people who do not have MS, I want you to put your hands down if you don't get tired. Okay, and I want everybody who has MS to look around the room and see that people without MS have fatigue also. You can put your hands down unless they're getting tired. So one of the most important things that I feel when it comes to fatigue, which for me, I'm an MS patient myself as well. I've been living with MS this is my 17th year, I think. I can tell you since 1998, do the math. So 17th year. And some of the most painful things that I've experienced have been fatigue related, because you get fatigued and then the mental part of it really is wearing, and it's difficult, it's painful, it's mental pain, it's physical pain, and the more you think about it, the worse it gets, right? So why do you think about it? Well, because it's there. So how do we get rid of it? Let's see. There's some things that you can do that are not MS related, which I think are some of the more important things, is eliminating the causes of the fatigue that are not MS as the primary cause, like being deconditioned. How many people in here can remember the day before they were diagnosed with MS? Vaguely, I mean, at least remember what it was like the day before. Okay? Do you remember being really tired before having MS? Yeah, you get tired. But do you remember where you were at your very best of any time in your whole life, physically? If you don't raise your hand, I'll ask who in here does not exercise, and it'll come to mind like that, right? Because that's what happens when I ask people, do you exercise? And if not, let me know why. I usually get the same answer. Well, I used to be able to, and they'll tell me how they were at their very best. And when they think back to it, wow, I was so full of energy then. I wasn't feeling pain. The world was the best place that you can live in. And guess what? You're comparing yourself to the most and toughest and most vigorous activities you probably ever did, the most work. Hard work only pays off if you do it. So when you got to that point, you probably did a lot of hard work to get there, right? Do you ever think about that when you think of how things were? You don't think about what you got. What you had inside you at the time, or what you were able to do, or how hard you worked. You just think about the outcome. So don't compare yourself to the best you ever were unless you're comparing the work that got you to that point. So if you're tired and you want to do a little bit more, you got to work at it. And it doesn't mean that you have to go tomorrow to the gym and do what you did the last time you had a great workout at the gym. It just means you got to start. Okay? Anybody in here wish that they could just start exercising but feel they can't because they have MS? Are you scared? It's okay to be afraid. For you, it's laziness, and for a lot of people, it's laziness. But I guarantee you there's a handful of you in here that spend more time and more energy thinking about exercising and put more thought into it and more thought about what if and what might be than the actual exercise routine would take. Even if it is only 2 minutes, because if you exercise for 2 minutes and you don't currently exercise, you're exercising for 2 more minutes than you normally would. That's 100% improvement. You with me? Now, some of the things that are important with exercise, and I can tell you from a personal standpoint, I am a personal trainer. I have my degree in the related field from Florida State. I know there's some people that probably don't like Florida State. There's probably some people that do like Florida State. And I think that they gave me a great education, so regardless of that, I'm going to educate you from my knowledge as well. It's important that, exercise is a science. But for you guys, if you're going to use somebody to help you, and I'm a personal trainer, I don't live in the area, but make sure that they're well educated. But keep in mind, do you remember how many of you in here did not play when they were children? Really? Everybody did. That was fun, right? What was more fun in life than playing as a child? Did you ever wake up one day and say, you know what, today I'm too old to exercise or have fun? No. But you probably can remember several days that you didn't. And it wasn't because you outgrew it, or it's just because something else was more important to you at that time, or that you lost track of things. How many people in here do not have time to exercise? Okay, you don't, and anybody else, I'm not going to call it. Everybody else in here has time to exercise. He doesn't. How many people in here have Facebook? Now, that's not an exercise, is it? I guarantee you, if you put half as much time as you did into Facebook as you did into the gym, or at least a quarter of the time, you guys would be not feeling the fatigue that you're feeling now. There is MS fatigue, and that's lassitude. We know about that, right? To me, that's what it's like when you open up the oven and you get all of a sudden that heat comes and hits you, and you're almost like you're floored. But just being deconditioned, or you can probably figure out by thinking, what did you have for dinner last night? What did you have for breakfast this morning? Did you have breakfast this morning? I'm not going to ask because I don't want people to reveal who you are who don't eat breakfast. But what's the most important meal of the day? Breakfast. Why? Because you need that food that you're eating in the morning first thing, or closest to first thing, to give you energy for the rest of the day. When's the least important time to have a large meal, as we're dinner, a late dinner and late snacks, because you don't need much energy to rest, right? You're resting because you're out of energy. That's the whole point of it. So when you can figure out why you're tired, if it's stress related, stress takes up more energy than I think anything. I mean, I've done a hard workout, come home, had energy, had something go on where it took everything out of me, and it felt like I did 6 more workouts. So you got to think about it, and think about, if you're in a relationship, if you're having relationship issues, maybe it's a vitamin deficiency, maybe it's, find out, know what the reason is. Because if you do, you can, when everything else is eliminated, then you're like, wow, I got MS. Well, we knew that already. So what do? You exercise when you're able to. And I can tell you that if you do that, and even if it's 2 minutes, you're going to feel a lot better about yourself. One thing that you should do is feel good about yourself. And you know what? Forget that saying when you read it everywhere. It may frustrate you, but how many people here have heard, well, you look so good, right? Yeah? Screw that, right? Because it's okay to look good. You want something that makes you look bad? You can tell people, well, you may think I look good and I appreciate that, but you don't know what I'm feeling. This is what I'm feeling. But it's still nice to hear that you look good, because if someone tells you look bad, you're not going to really smile too much, are you? And it's important. You got to smile every day. So, any questions so far? What are you saying oh for? One of the most important things about exercise is, what's the most important thing about exercise? Well, really you should ask your doctor before you exercise, so that's pretty important. So if you're exercising without talking to your doctor first, that's my disclaimer for exercise. But the most important thing about exercise is what? Starting. Because if you don't start, you're not exercising. Anyone know what this is? Foam roller, really good. If nobody knew, I was going to put it over here with that. This is something that I like to use for spasticity, cramping, that type of stuff. It's like a self-myofascial release. You know what myofascial release is? It's massage. So by laying on the ground, and I'm going to skip around with some different things, but spasticity is helped by massage. Anybody in here have spasticity that's had massage and it's made it feel better? So, you what?
I haven't put the two together.
You haven't? Try it out. It's a good thing. You can get a foot massage. What about a pedicure? Huh? Flexology? Yeah.
I love pedicure.
Well, then do it. You got to do what you love, right? And you got to love what you do. So these here, even if it's for your foot, doing something as simple as this can really, this is hard. If you're in a seated position, doing that in the bottom of your foot, that can help prevent or get around plantar fasciitis or relieve the pressure of it.
Without or with the shoe?
Well, it's better to do it without the shoe, but I'm not going to take my shoes off right now. But you can do it with the shoe on. But when you're seated, which I'm not, that's the way you can do that. Other things that you can do is lay on your back. You can put this on the wall even and roll it up and down on your back. Or put it in the bed, roll up and down on it in the bed. How many people in here know what your IT band is? IT band, the muscles that run up and down the side of your leg that get really tight. Anybody have tightness in that? This is a great thing to do for that. Some people, it depends on how much pain you can tolerate, because it's really like getting a hard massage, but you can dictate to the roller how hard you want to really do it. So some of the things that you can do would be this type of stuff. Well, it doesn't have to be like this. It could be here, and rolling it back, or putting it up against the wall, putting it up against something and doing, just rolling it up and down your leg. You can even do it like this. But that's just one thing. This can be used for many other things besides myofascial release. Another thing is spasticity. When you talk about strength, what do you think about? Now, I'm going to go into a whole bunch of different things, but how many people in here feel they can be stronger? All right? If you feel you can be stronger, then you should be doing something to make yourself stronger. Not just feeling you should be stronger. But anyone know what this is, stability ball? Posture. I'm going to close my eyes and see how many people have good posture in the room. If I look now, and so many people are sitting up more, erect and have their posture looking really good. And in about 10 seconds or 15 seconds, they're going to be back to where they were, because it's a habit. You can work your muscles as much as you want that are in control of your posture, but if you don't purposely sit up straight and listen to what your parents told you when you were young, back to having fun and running around, doing all that stuff, sit up straight, stand tall, you'll forget and you'll be down to here. Now, you want to hear another interesting thing about fatigue, as long as I'm talking about posture? Try this. Try sitting down with upper cross. Try rounding your shoulders. Okay? You guys doing it? Round your shoulders, slouch. You're allowed to have bad posture for the moment. And while you're sitting like that, take a deep breath. Okay, now what I want you to do is sit up tall like this. Take a deep breath. How much more oxygen do you think you got the second time? Okay, right? It's incredible. When you don't get enough oxygen, you know what happens? You get tired. Your muscles get tired. You're not getting enough oxygen to everything, and that's what we live on, oxygen and water. And so by sitting up tall, sitting up straight, having better posture, not rounding yourself, keeping your ears, shoulders, hips, ankles, making a nice line like that, it allows you to breathe better. And there's one thing that may be a solution to some of the problems when it comes to fatigue. Something simple, right? I mean, who would ever thought that if you're able to breathe better, you can have more energy? Ask the NFL players that use the oxygen mask on the sideline. They're really probably not getting much out of it unless they're in a high altitude, but they still do it, and they know they're on television. All their friends see them, and it looks pretty cool, right? Stretching. You guys wondering what this thing is? I am. I just brought it up here. It was sitting over there. That was a joke. Before stretching, what's the most important thing to do before you stretch? Warm up. Exactly. Muscles are like rubber bands. If you stick a rubber band in the refrigerator long enough, pull it out, stretch it, what's going to happen? It's going to snap, or it's going to get longer than it should be, and it's not going to go back to normal form. Your muscles are like rubber bands. Your muscles cannot become longer, because a muscle is attached on one side of a bone and attached on the other side of the bone. They could become looser, but they're not going to become longer unless you get taller. And if you can figure that one out, we need to have a talk. I'm going to get something from right here. I got to stay in the picture, so. This is a special workout chair. If you had something like this, anybody see one of these? It's like a stationary bike, but it's movable. This is a good warm-up for your legs. If you can't do this, you can plug it in to the wall, and it'll help you do it. And I've worked with people where I've had them doing it while it's plugged in, and I tell them how I turn it down a little bit and down a little bit. They got to keep going. Eventually, some of the people, I plug it in, I turn it on, they start riding it. How do you feel? You want me to turn it higher? A little bit higher, okay, put it a little bit higher. So, okay, I'm gonna leave it this level, okay? They say, okay. And I distract them while I'm unplugging it. And then 5 minutes later, I tell them, well, guess what? You've been doing it with it unplugged. So that prop is something that is encouraging for them. They keep doing it, and then they realize that they really didn't need it plugged in. So sometimes you can do a little more than you really think you can. More than sometimes. And you can also talk yourself out of doing things just as much as you can talk yourself into doing things. So, who wants to be a volunteer? You? I knew it was going to be you. No, I was talking to the person behind. No, I'm just kidding. I was talking to you. That's something that's important here, is that everybody enjoys the program. So, everybody enjoying the program? Come on, I want to hear it louder.
I've met you before.
Yeah, I know. I remember. I don't remember everything, but I I remember some things. I have problems with my short-term memory too.
Well, with this accent, it's a little hard to forget, you know.
I also have problems with my short-term memory.
Me too.
Did I mention that? Have a seat. She's not warmed up, but I'm going to have her warm up with something that most people see and they smile. What's this? No, I'm just kidding. That's not. Now, what I want you to do is, one of the most important things to do is have a strong core when it comes to exercise. Why is it important to have a strong core? Because if not, your body is going to be like Jell-O and your legs are going to walk away from you. I mean, it's not exactly like that, but it sort of goes that way. Also, the stronger your core, the less spasticity you may have. So why not develop a stronger core? And what not better to do it than is a balloon. So here's something that you can do if you have someone with you. You got to catch the balloon. She's using her core, trust me. Just by turning her body like that, she's using her core. And you see, I told you she'd smile. It's fun. Balloons are fun.
Yes. I have 2 grandkids, so I know.
See, you should have. If you had 4, you'd have to have more balloons.
Well, I have 3, so.
3? You need 1 more.
My daughter.
Okay. But you see what she's doing is she's moving her core back and forth. She's using it to balance herself. If you can't have a steady core, you don't have any balance. And balance comes from stability. So the more stable you are, this is stability, this is balance, right? So if you can't do this, then don't try doing it. Do you know where this is good for?
Falling.
It's good for hopping places, you know, if you got to get somewhere on 1 foot. It's also good for assessments and the doctors when they tell you to stand on 1 foot and they want to see how long you can stand on 1 foot. They're measuring it. They don't expect you to be standing on 1 foot doing things on 1 leg all the time because we don't operate standing on 1 foot. We transfer. But we do have unilateral abilities in walking. You have to be able to transfer from here to here to here. And without stability, you'd go here and you'd fall right over, which it does happen with us a lot. It's happened with me in the past when I was unable to stand up. Most of the reason was I had no stability. And it was coming from my brain, but my body wasn't getting the right signals. You guys understand that, right? So I'd go to get up and I'd fall right over because maybe something was telling this side to lean this way, but it wasn't supposed to lean that way and whatnot. So you want more, don't you? Here.
No.
Up. Okay, you can go.
Now you have to walk.
Now I got to walk.
See?
All right, so you can sit down. I appreciate you coming up. I'll call you back up in a second. Okay, you ready to come back up? Can you do squats?
No.
I saw you stand up. How many people saw her stand up out of the chair? You can do squats.
I can on the
Okay,
chair,
have a
but
seat.
not to the floor.
Who wants to squat all the way to the floor? Stand up again. Okay, now you did 2 squats. Now you can go back to your seat. Thank you so much.
I'm not coming back.
Why not?
Your last chance
That's it?
for my volunteer.
Okay,
yeah.
stand on your hand. Okay, then go have
Something
a seat.
else.
All right, have a seat. She's like, no, I'm not doing anything else but one more thing. As long as I got this balloon, you guys can pass it around the room, but don't let it touch the ground. I'm back. Just keep hitting that, and you'll see how it works core, unless he just sits there and hits it to himself over and over again. There you go. What are some other things that we do for pain is stretching. Stretching needs to be done when you're warm. Your body has to be warm, just like starting an exercise program. How many people in here stretch when they're cold? When their muscles are cold? It's not a good idea. You can slowly ease into it, but you can do a passive warm-up. You know what a passive warm-up is? Anyone have an idea? Huh? A passive warm-up is something that you can do, such as getting something warm to wrap around your leg that you're going to stretch before you do it, like a warm cloth, a warm towel. It's not central. It's not like you're heating up your head and your spinal cord. You're just getting your leg warm. That will allow for some more elasticity and more given stretches. What's an area that people in here have tightness and spasticity in that you want me to show you something? Because I don't want to show you how to stretch my finger out if that's something that's not your problem. Legs. Okay, what part of your legs cramp up the most? First person that raises their hands, I'm going to show you how to stretch it. Calf, leg, hamstring, what? Calf, thighs, calf, head, shoulders, knees, toes. Okay, calves. I heard calves, right? All right, so a standing calf stretch would be something like this, the back leg. That's stretching my gastrocnemius, which is the muscle that attaches them, it's a multi-joint muscle, so it crosses the ankle and the knee joint. Huh? That's what it's all about. You got to have fun. So that's stretching out my gastroc for short. But if you want to stretch the other muscle that's just the single joint muscle, it's the soleus. That you can do seated by putting weight onto it here and pushing down. That stretches your calf, the deeper calf muscle. Or you can also do that by bending your knee and holding it this way. Or you can stretch your calf out by laying on your back. Or having somebody else do that. Or you can get something, anybody in here ever get a cramp in their calf when they're sleeping or laying in bed? All right, so if you have something like a towel, I use this just because it's handy and I have it on the stage here, but I hold the ball with it, but you can get any kind of strap, put it around your foot, and that's stretching my calf. You can see that, you can do it leaning forward, but if you lay back and you pull, it's a little bit easier if you can. Can you guys see back there what I'm doing? What other muscles do you want to know how to stretch? Which one? What I was showing you before? This? This? This is stretching my hip flexor. I didn't call you up. I'm just kidding.
I came up to show you. Okay, hold my hands.
Do you give consent to be on the video?
Oh, I didn't, but
You have to tell them. You have to tell them. No, just say to the video that you give consent.
I give consent.
Okay.
Okay. I have a smaller step at home, but if I do this for the back.
Okay, that's good, but that's pretty extreme. But that's no.
Well, this is extreme, this step, but the step I have is
It's
smaller.
shorter. Yeah, so that's something you can do. You can even get something like a piece of plywood that's this thick and put your foot on it. It's basically like the opposite of what most women do that beat up their calves is wear heels. It'd be if you have your toes up, but nobody wants heels in the front of their shoes, right? Good. Take that off the invention list. The next muscle give me a muscle. Thigh, front or back? Front. The front of your thighs usually are not as prone to cramp because unfortunately, most people are in a seated position more than they should be, which has their leg on a stretch a little bit as it is. So these muscles here are on stretch when you bend your knee, but this is, now you can do this laying down. I'm just standing up so everybody can see. But if you're laying down, this is stretching your calf, your quads. And by lifting it back more, you're getting more into your hip flexors. Why does that look scary? Well, stretching is what you can put up with. It's not like you're going to stretch it too hard. And when you do it by yourself, your body's telling you stop and you stop, right? You're not going to stretch, or you shouldn't stretch until you snap it. But it's supposed to be comfortable. And if you cramp, the best thing to do with cramping is against the cramp, which means if the cramp is pulling you this way, the best thing to do is stretch it this way. So when your toes curl up and your foot comes down like this, the best thing to do is to lift your toe up and point it up. And stretching, if you make stretching part of your daily routine after you warm up, if you're able to walk and go for a walk or do some kind of movement and then stretch daily, you'd be more comfortable. It might help your spasticity. And talk to your doctors about that because they probably have already talked to you about it. But if you talk to them about it again, it'll refresh your memory. Next question. What? The MS Hug? That I don't. I wish I did. The MS Hug, talk to your doctor about it. You can stretch your core. I mean, but that feels, I know the MS hug just feels like someone's grabbing your rib cage and just holding it, right? Be happy that you're being hugged. That's the best I can tell you, because some people go their whole life wanting a hug and don't get a hug. So we got MS, kind of comes with our illness. Next thing was, another thing that you can do to stretch your hip flexors is this. If you're seated, you can do it. You just don't want to hyperextend your back. You want it to be your hip coming back, not you don't want to lean back too far into it, but you can feel it right up in here. And hip flexors are like our enemy, right? They're the problems we have. Our hip flexors stop working. We start dragging our feet. So sometimes it's because of tightness. Sometimes it's because of just lack of conduction. So that's between you and your doctor to figure out what the cause is. I'm just showing you things that may help it out. Adductors and abductors. You know the difference between adductors and abductors? A B. No. Adductors bring together. Abductors go apart. So your muscles that are your adductors are these muscles that bring your knees together. So the way to stretch them would be to pull them apart. So that's when these muscles tighten up on you. A lot of time, what muscles, cramping or spasticity is signals that are telling your muscles to do two things at the same time, your agonist versus your antagonist. So you ever do something and you kind of like lock up and it feels like you can't straighten your arm out or your leg out? That's your agonist, which when you're talking about biceps and triceps, the agonist would be the muscle that is working. The antagonist is completely relaxed, unless you're flexing. So if there was something against resistance, right now my bicep here is the agonist, and the antagonist is the tricep back here. But when you flex, the only way to hold a flex position is to do both the agonist and antagonist together, which is co-contracting your muscles, which can be painful if it happens without you saying to do that. That's when both are, or if you go to step and your legs kind of lock up or something, that's painful. So the best thing to do with that is stretching as well. Stretching and talk to your doctors. And how many people in here take any kind of medicine because they have MS? I mean, because whether it be a disease-modifying drug or whether it be a drug that's helping your side effects or your symptoms of peripheral symptoms, whatever it might be. You guys most people in here take something. Well, those pills aren't going to make everything or whatever form of, whether it's an injection, a pill, an infusion. You owe it to yourself to do more and not just to rely on the medicine itself. If there's a medicine that works for you, find out what it is and stay with it, because that may be the catalyst to going out and doing more. It's like the old saying. I had a person that I was working with that, I got her to, it was one of the people that said, I need to lose a few pounds before we started exercising. Kills me. Kind of odd, but had them take a vitamin. I didn't have them take it, but I suggested, do you take a multivitamin? They said no, and I said, well, have you ever thought about it? And they said, well, I did when I was a kid. I said, why did you stop? I said, I don't know if you need them. To me personally, you take a vitamin if you have a deficiency in something, but multivitamins are usually harmless. So they took a vitamin, and they said, well, I'll go get multivitamins. And about a month later, they called me back, and they said, I'm ready to exercise. I said, that's great, let's start. I said, I'm just wondering what made you make the call now. Well, I've been taking my multivitamin for a month, and I've lost like 10 pounds. I said, really? She said, yeah. I said, well, what else have you been doing? Well, once I started taking the multivitamin, I started watching what I was eating. Okay, it's important. And then I started watching what I was eating. I started to exercise a little bit, and I went for a walk. I said, how far did you go? And she said, as far as I could, as long as I could make it back. I said, that's perfect. She's figured it out on her own. That's really what you need to do, is what you're able to. And she was doing that. So I said to her, is there anything else? Well, I did start to do a little bit of push-ups, and I was doing some squats, some standing and sitting out of a chair, stuff that you had mentioned to me that we might be doing in our program. And I said, oh, that sounds wonderful. So now tell me again, how did the multivitamin become the reason for that. But it's true. If you start doing something healthy, you want to back it up with something healthy. And it adds, and it adds, and it adds. And then the more you enjoy the things that you're doing, the more you see yourself in the mirror smiling, and the more people around you see you smiling. And that's one of the most important things that happens in life, is a bunch of happy people smiling back and forth with each other. Because if you wake up with a smile, you can make it through the day without saying you didn't smile that day. How many people have you heard my thing about what I try to do in the morning every day is wake up. What's the first thing you do in the morning? Really? What's the first thing? I think everybody. I go to the bathroom before I get to the coffee pot. So on the way there is a mirror, right? Most people pass a mirror before they get to the bathroom. Well, if you look at yourself in the mirror and you smile, it'll probably look like this that early, right? Which makes you laugh. And if you don't laugh, at least you smiled. But that's what happens with me is, you walk and you look over, you smile, and then you look back and you laugh at yourself. It doesn't matter who you laugh at. Laughing at yourself could be the funniest thing you could do. And then you get through the day, and at the end of the day, you can say, you know what? I started my day off with a smile and ended my day with a smile, but you can't say you didn't smile all day. Okay, more questions, stretching questions. Come on, where's, right there. They curl up like that? When they open up like this? They don't grip, though? Talk to your doctor about that, because I don't know. I mean, from what you're showing me your hand, I doubt you're going to show me your foot doing it, but it's, stretching against it, like if this was your foot, this is one of the best stretches for your toes. You can bring them together, but that's kind of counterproductive usually, unless they just are automatically open up like that. So talk to your doctor about it. Talk to your doctor. Maybe he'll give you a physical therapist, or maybe he has a solution for you. And then you can tell me, and then I know more too, right? And then we all get help.
What is the little muscle in between your hips and your pelvic area? That is really tight down there, even before stretches.
This, right in here?
Lower.
Like,
Yeah, like right across the edge. Lower of your bladder area.
Oh, up in here?
Yeah, it's a tiny little muscle though by your legs, I thought.
Your psoas?
Yeah. How do you can feel that it hurts.
It's hard to really, what I try to do is, I can tell you all the muscles, but I'd rather tell you about what actions that they do, and if you can figure out the action that the muscle does, it's better to...
Well, you use it when you're squatting and when you're moving. That's that tight little muscle that...
Your psoas is a muscle that's a hip flexor, so it helps you with hip flexion, but it's also attaches all the way through and into your lumbar spine. So that's what happens when you see a lot of times. It's important to keep your hip flexors loose, especially if you're mobile. If you're able to ambulate without a chair, even when you are in a chair, it's important not to get these muscles too tight, because that's how bad backs may occur. So you ever go into a store and you're stuck behind somebody, regardless of how slow you're going, they're doing the shuffle walk? You know what that's from usually? Is from tight hip flexors. Because if your hip flexors are tight and if you're sitting down all the time, what happens is you're unable to take a long step because this muscle is too tight. So you have to take that short step, and then it starts to increase the gravitational pull of the earth, right? Because it's pulling you further and further and further down. And you're here and you're doing this. Now what are you doing? You got your shoulders rounded. Now you have to stop. Now you have to stop because you're out of breath, because you don't have enough oxygen. Back to what I was just telling you before. So it's important to keep these muscles stretched. If you can stand up, you know what the most important thing? How many people think that out of the people who are able to stand, raise your hand if you feel like you sit for too long a period of time, too long in a row. Raise your hand, come on. Okay, all you dehydrated people that just raised your hand, put your hands back down. Because if you're drinking enough water, then you're going to be getting up more. Well, you are one of the people that raised your hands. So then how are you going to the bathroom in that? So if you're hydrated enough, you cannot sit too long a period of time because your bladder is going to tell you, get up. So that's one way to keep yourself active. Whether you're in a chair or not, drink more water. That's one of the most fundamental things you learn. You learn that when you're up to the age of 3rd grade. Remember that book? The most important things in life you learn by the time you're in the 3rd grade. I think that's what it was called. What were the things in the book? Drink water, have fun, play, eat, be respectful, all those things that we should be doing every day. If you play, you have fun, you go outside, you do things, do something more than what you're doing now. That's what exercise is, doing a little bit more than what you're doing now at a little bit higher intensity. If you can't, how many people here cannot exercise? Okay, now nobody raised their hand. I'm not going to ask you who doesn't exercise because a lot of you don't. So where's Stuart? I want him to come up here and show let him exercise a little bit. He's hiding. He's afraid I was going to do this. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie someone up and I'm going to see how much fatigue it causes to try to get out. Right? No, this is a good tool. I like to have fun with this. How many people have been staring at this wondering what I'm going to do with it? Anybody been? Oh, come on. Yeah, listen to him. I'm not. There's do and do not. There is no try. Who's the philosopher that said that? Famous philosopher, 20th century philosopher. Who answered? I heard it over there. All right, Yoda. Yoda. Everybody. Anybody in here not know who Yoda is? Okay, we all know it. So that means basically don't say you're going to try. Saying you're going to try is like saying I might win the lottery, but I also might buy a ticket. Or that I might work hard and I might get results. And it doesn't happen. What this is, I use this for a lot of things. One thing I do is, one of my clients who's actually in the crowd is on the 4th floor, and I put it over my shoulders and I don't have to drag it, and I climb up her stairs holding it, so I'm getting my workout getting up to our place. But for some people, what I do with this is when they're seated, something as simple as this. Anybody want to try? Come on, I want some volunteers. If some people don't come up and volunteer, I'm going to get kicked out and I'm not going to be invited back. Come on up. Now, she sees me doing this. I'm going to show her the really hard thing that you can do with this. I'm just kidding. Okay, have a seat. Hold this side. Okay, now let's do this. Who wants to come up and jump rope? No, I'm just kidding. What I want you to do is just ravel it up. And let it go on the floor as you do it. Come on, do a little faster than that. There you go. Takes a little coordination, right? Now turn it around. Now do it this way. Now pull it down. Do it. Come on. Go. Same thing. Keep doing it. Your hand, wherever you want. Just take her through the bicycle. Now get the balloon and put it on your nose. No. Now the other way. Now go back. Come on, keep it coming. Just like that. There you go. Your shoulders getting a little tired? Arms. How's your breathing?
Fine. I'm not breathing a lot.
You're not breathing a lot. I want you to look at the camera and say you give your consent to be on the video if you want to.
I give my consent to be on the video.
Okay. Okay, keep going. Keep going. Do you exercise regularly?
Nope.
No? Well, now you do. Okay, now what I want you, now I'm going to show, do housework as exercise. If it's not, you tell the clothes to fold themselves, right? Doesn't happen. I try it all the time. What's that? You okay with getting a picture?
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to have you do something. Let's see. Actually, okay, with me? Okay, what I want you to do now is stand up. So you can do squats too, right? I'm not going to have you do a bunch of them. But there you go. Now go all the way back. I'm not going to go all the way back to the seat.
Oh.
You can sit down, but don't. No, I'm just kidding. Take the one in each hand. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, what I want you to relax, because you're going to do, that you're just going to make it, you're going to do this. Breathe. How does that feel? Yeah, it is, isn't it? Okay, you can stop. That's pretty good, right? Now you're working your core tremendously. If you do it standing, you're even working more core. But this is a fun thing. I like to have fun things that I add to the programs that I create for people, because if exercise is just pushing weights and sitting around and doing stuff like that, it's no fun, right? So you can try. I won't take you back. All right, well, I appreciate everybody. Thanks so much. I appreciate your participation. Now that's something that you can do as a warm-up, or something that's if you do the pulling like that, that's a way you can get yourself warmed up before stretching your arms out. Anybody know what this is? Furniture mover. Who wants to move my furniture for me? No volunteers. Okay, we'll do something else with it. This is a great exercise tool. I've told you how to use it in the past for resistance exercise. This is something for warming up. You can do stuff like this, because some people whose hip flexors don't allow them to do this have an easier time doing this. Or even if you get yourself to help it out a little bit, a little assisted movements, then you can go into your stretching. I'm going to show you some stretching that I also was giving you over here when you were talking about, people talked about their quads tightening up. Does anybody here ever get tight hamstrings? Yeah, right? Those are painful, isn't it, when your hamstrings cramp up? The way you do a hamstring stretch, there's a couple ways. If you're able to stand, this isn't as good a one, is to lean forward, keep your knee bent. You know, the old school saying was, don't bend your knee, keep it locked and go down, but then you're stretching your tendon, and you don't stretch your tendon. So if you can lean forward, if you can grab your toe and do this without feeling it behind your knee, then it's stretching your hamstring. But if you feel it behind the knee, that's a no-no, you bend your leg. Seated, everybody in here at some point was in school, I think, unless you were homeschooled, but anybody in here homeschooled? I can't see anyone, so I'm assuming that they weren't. This is called the modified hurdler stretch. Can you see this? It's leaning forward and touching your toe. The reason that it's modified hurdler stretch is because years ago in PE and in physical education, they were taught to do it like this. Do you remember this one? But what happened was it really puts a lot of pressure on the medial collateral ligament and the medial meniscus in your knee, and it gave a lot of people knee problems. So now it's on the do not do list. So this is modified because it doesn't harm this leg, and you can still stretch. And if you have to do it with your knee bent a little bit, you can get more of the belly of the muscle without the knee. Now, and laying on your back, it was the other thing I was showing you, which is you can do it here. You can pull on this so it's not as hard as pulling on your toe. Then stretching your glutes, strongest muscle in the body. Cross your legs and pull. Do you see that? Another stretch is bringing it across your body, and you can get a little bit into the glutes that way too. Reaching up, now you're getting the side. Now stretching your adductors, I was showing you before. These are butterflies, hands on your ankles or feet. Push down with your elbows. There's so many stretches, there's so many muscles. I really want to cover the ones that you guys are most interested in. So does anybody want to come up here to volunteer so I can show how I stretch muscles? Stuart? Let's see the shoulder stretch. Come on. I want to stretch somebody. Nobody's coming up, so
You can't do my shoulders.
come on, I want to stretch your shoulder.
He knows he cannot touch my shoulders. They're falling out of the sockets.
I'm going to put them back in. Where do you get tightness? Your calves. Okay, so if you don't want to contract them, get something like this to hold on to. 1 foot forward for your stability, this foot back, and hold it. So try it. Nice and gentle. I don't want you breaking anything. No bouncing. Were you bouncing?
No.
Okay. Did anybody see him bouncing? Oh, that's one thing you do not do when you're
Who wants
stretching.
to see him again?
When you're stretching, you don't want it to be ballistic because the bouncing can cause minor tears or major tears. So you just hold it. Can you feel your calf stretching?
No.
This one?
No.
Okay, so bring this leg further back. There. Put your weight onto this leg now. Can you feel it?
No.
Uh-oh, something wrong with you, Dorne?
Bring that leg further forward. Left leg further forward. This leg back. And lean forward.
The answer is no.
No? Can you feel your calf ever?
No.
Oh, okay. Boo. Well, I can feel that his calf is on stretch right now. But that's how you stretch your calf. Anybody else want to come up who can feel their calf? Thanks, Stuart. Come on. You can come on up. As long as you're volunteering, look at the camera and tell them that you're...
It's okay to do whatever you have to do.
Okay. Do you have any spasticity, tightness in any muscles that you want to, or do you just want to know how to stretch any muscle or joints or neck? Well, the neck's difficult. If you have neck pain, I don't like talking to people in front of groups about stretching their necks without a physician's approval on it.
Side joints, the lower back.
Your side joint, okay.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that you can do to stretch your lower back is, do you want to get on the ground? Or would you rather not?
I would rather not, that's hard.
Okay, so I'm going to get on the ground and let you stretch me. Fair?
Okay.
Okay. Well, one of the ways to do is, this is probably the most comforting stretch of the lower back, is by shoulders flat in the ground, pull your knees to your chest. So if you have an assistant, come on, assistant.
Okay.
So what I want you to do is push on my knees, nice and gentle.
Okay.
And you do this until the person says, ow! No, it didn't hurt. But no, the person, so that's how someone else would help. If you're a caregiver, you can help by pushing, you see, until you can get all the way into that position.
Okay.
Another way is by one at a time. What? You could do it in your bed. In your bed, you can do it seated. You can curl up in a seat. So if you bring your knees forward and pull them in, you can get into that position like that in your chair. Let me show you. It's not as good because your back is not supported, but if you're here, this is getting that stretch, coming all the way forward. It's similar, not as effective, but when you're in bed in the morning, and if you do one leg at a time, then you're working with that muscle that someone was asking about, the psoas and the hip flexors, where you put one leg flat, one leg bent. Now come here, you can push on here. Now push here. Now as long as this leg's staying straight, touch right here. Feel that? Do you feel that's tight right there?
Yeah.
So that's stretching and my lower back is stretching. Can you guys see that? Okay. Anything else? What about you? Anything else you want to know how to stretch? Anybody in here want me to stretch something on him that I'm able to do on camera here?
A heel spur?
A heel spur is a heel spur, so you can't stretch it.
Well, I have a thing that...
Well, you have something to, I mean, that's a calf stretch in itself just by lifting your foot up. That's an active stretch because you're doing it yourself. Can you feel it?
Yeah.
You can do that, but if you pulled on it, it would be even more. That's something. There's anything else?
Shoulders.
Shoulders. One arm here. Hook it with the other arm and pull behind the elbow. So watch. Now pull. Can you feel your shoulder stretch? Don't do it too much, but that's a shoulder stretch. You ever get any tightness in this part of your arms? Anybody? The thumb down stretch. Boo, that's what I call it. Put your thumb down at your side and bring your arm back. You feel that? Stretching your bicep? Yep. Tricep stretch. Elbow in front of you. Put your elbow in front of you. You can use an assisted or assisted active stretch where you lift up and you push back. As long as it's bent a lot, can you feel your tricep stretching?
Now, yeah.
And if you have trouble getting as much, you can come around this way.
Feel that.
Can you tell him that you give consent to do that
Oh, I give
on
consent
video?
to do this on video.
Okay. And that you didn't get hurt before you gave consent?
No, I didn't get it.
Okay. Anyone else? I got a guinea pig here, so. Huh? Delts? That's your shoulder. Your traps? Those you can do by putting your arms back and pushing down, or just pushing down, or even holding a weight or holding something at your side. That stretches your traps. The way you stretch a muscle is to take it in a position against the way it would move. Does that make sense? So the bicep is on stretch all the way back here, where if it was going to move, it would be here. So this is the way to get it all the way on stretch. Your tricep is all the way, to bring it all the way back here. The action of the tricep would be doing this. So this is actually stretching the long head and the short heads of the triceps. Anyone else? On this? Computer work, dinner. No, and in addition to that stuff, some stretches that you can do. You can go ahead and have a seat. This is a good stretch for some, too. If you have a ball, it's a loud stretch. But if you curl yourself onto the ball and just hold yourself in this position, it's stretching your back out. You put your arms forward and you're stretching your upper back, too. As far as stretching goes, that's one. Some of the other stretches that you can do.
Stretches so you don't break your mind.
Yeah, okay. With the ball?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you have a partner, it's a lot easier to stretch. Do you have someone that can help you stretch?
Aren't you here?
No, I'm not going to be here forever.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, at home I do.
Okay. Have a seat on the ball.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes.
Video, right?
Yeah.
I consent. Film what you need and.
You're going too far there. Okay. So, give me your arms. I'm going to pull you forward a little bit. Don't resist. Relax. Can you feel that stretching your back? Mm-hmm. That's something that you can do with somebody, or you can use a band or something to hold on to and do it. Turn this way. Can you feel your sides?
Yes.
Is that where you feel it the most?
I feel it under my
Okay.
back muscle.
Yeah, so that's working her sides of her upper back, and it's stretching. The other thing that I was saying about stretching in the shoulders, now this is something that manual stretch, but I'd rather you talk to the doctor first. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to show you what it'd be like. But pushing down while relaxing will stretch your traps. That's something that a lot of people get tightness, all the muscles that attach up into the mastoid process back here. So you get pain back here when you get tightness in most of the muscles in the upper back. Some other things that you can do let me see this hand. Now this is on the ball, but now you can resist me a little bit. Can you feel that into your back and in your shoulder? Where do you feel it? All up in there? And that's something that you can do with a resistance band, which I have some in here. Relax, let me show you. I don't want to sit on your glasses. So here, hold on to this. So just with your right arm. Do you feel that?
Yes.
Now, the ball is something that, I'm going to show you one other thing on the ball. The ball is something that's good because it's increasing stability, because it's without stability. That's why it's called a stability ball, is you have less stability on it than a chair. Yeah, it helps your core. And remember what I was saying is the stronger your core, the less you may have issues with spasticity peripherally. So one of the things, you can stand up because I'm going to show you with this. A good way to do an active stretch would be doing a squat if you can. This is not easy, but what I'm doing is I'm stretching my hip flexor out while doing a single-legged squat. Or if you want to try that, or?
I'm scared to fall.
Okay, don't worry. I don't want you to do anything you're scared to do. So you don't consent to that, do you? I know. I'm just kidding. You wouldn't. Another stretch would be to do this. If you can, this is something that if you have problems with your lumbar back, you've got to be careful, but just follow the contour of the ball and it's stretching your back. But what this is really doing is it's stretching your abs. And you can do it like this too. But anything that causes pain, the slightest hint of pain is your cue to stop doing it. This you can also do, stretch your groin out whilst doing a single-legged squat. So that's working in here. All right, you got any other questions? Anything else you want to learn how to stretch while you're up here?
I get a pain here.
You do, right?
Sometimes I'll be doing something, and then like the next, in the evening it hurts. Maybe I've stretched over this way.
Well, if you're stretching over that way and it hurts that way, what it may be, I mean, I'm not going to diagnose you, but I can say that if you're doing work that's rotational, something like that, it could just be muscle soreness, which comes from doing work on a muscle. Like when you go to the gym and you work out hard and the next day you feel sore, that's the good kind of sore. I don't know if that is or not.
It's not that sore.
It's
I know that's sore.
That's just like you got lower back problems, maybe?
Maybe let's say before, like I'll be doing your nails or something where you're in a position for a little while, for a while, and then later, just because
You
I've
feel
been in that
tight?
position, it hurts, but it's an ache of like uncomfortable.
The best thing I can tell you to do about that is to
Stretching more.
stretching more is one thing, but if you know that getting in that position for a long period of time is going to cause the pain, break it up into like either 2 toes at a time or something, and then you won't have the longevity of sitting there and stretching and being in a contorted position that will hurt you. Okay. All right, thank you. Anybody else got any stretching questions? Okay, first you, then I'll get you in the back. I see you back there. And I missed someone's question over here that I'll get back to after I get to the person in the back. And then them.
I don't have a stretching question. How do you strengthen your core?
Okay, what I was showing about doing stuff in a seated position or a standing position, anything from as simple as leaning up against the wall with both hands would strengthen your core, because your abs are what's between you and the area, and that's holding you up. So like getting in a push-up position or a modified push-up position, I'll show you in a way that you can see that from there, but imagine me being on the floor. If you know what the plank is, that's a good exercise for the front side of your core. This is a plank. And this would be in a push-up position. So if you held yourself in a push-up position, what's holding me up are my abs, and they're preventing this from happening. So that's strengthening your core in that direction. You can also do that against a wall. You can also have somebody just hold you in a position. I need a volunteer. Quickly, I just need a volunteer. Who wants to volunteer? I got one. Okay, so I'm going to explain what I'm going to do while she's coming up here. You can come up too. For this one, I need an attorney. No, I'm just kidding. Because this is going to be wild. No, I'm just kidding. She's able. If she wanted help, she'd ask, right? You're able to get up.
Yeah.
You give consent?
Give consent.
Okay, to be on this video. Okay, so you can come up too. You have to give your consent.
I never consent to anything.
Okay, so what I want you guys to do is...
But then I represent the organization, so I'm in trouble.
Now, what I want you to do is hold her right hand with your right hand. And now what I want you to do is just pull enough to where you can't move each other, but you're still pulling. Okay, so now you're standing up. Now you see what she's doing is she's using her lower back muscles to maintain her posture so that she doesn't pull herself forward. Okay, now relax. The other important thing to do is breathe. Holding your breath. Holding your breath when you're exercising is like, trying to stay hydrated with sand. Okay, so now hold both hands. Now what I want you to do is pull against each other. Can you feel your lower back? Breathe. I'm talking to you because I know if you talk, you have to breathe.
Talking's good.
Yeah. Okay, so you feel your lower back here, so that's strengthening. Now what I want you to do is put your hands against each other. Now push against each other. Can you feel your core? Talk to me.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Okay, that's working her front. Now just do one hand of pushing against each other. Can you feel your core?
Yeah.
Okay. Now the other hand, just to even it out. So that's working core as well. So something as simple as that. And you can use a wall, you can use a person. You have a dog?
Miniature dachshund
Yeah, well, do you walk the dog on a leash?
with a.
It's the law, you better. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't walk her.
Yeah, but,
I use my scooter.
okay. Well, in a scooter, something that you can do for your core is just sitting up and back and up and back in a chair. And that's something that also when you're seated in a chair, come here, let's try this. Yeah, I need you still. Don't go far. Don't go far. First off, now, feet shoulder width apart, feet on the ground. Now you come over here because I want to show you guys how two people can do it that have never done it before, which I think that you guys have not done this form of exercise. Put your hand up. This hand will relax at your side, not against your heart, not against yourself. Now you push, and you try to push her back, but don't let her go back. Where do you feel that? Breathe. Talk to me. Can you feel your obliques here?
Yeah.
That's your core. Now you're using your obliques no matter how hard or light you're pushing. Okay, now the other hand, just to even it out.
Try not to block the camera.
That's something that you guys can do at home if you have somebody else that can help you. Just that simple push. Now, watch this. Put your hands like this together in front of you. Now, resist. Breathe. Okay, just making sure. Come on, keep pushing, keep pushing. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Now you push. Now go that way. You're working your core. That's core. You guys, who asked about, was it you that asked about, who asked about core in a seat?
Well, I mean, not just sitting, but I mean, standing. How do you...
No, you said sitting. I'm just kidding. Standing is the same thing. If you can do it seated, you can do it standing. If you can do it standing, there's still plenty that you can do in a seat. So another thing is, thank you. You did more than a great job. So thank you so much. Do you need help down? Okay.
That was a good power of attorney.
Haha, there we go. Does anybody else want to come up here and see what I was just doing standing? I'll do the same exact things that she was doing there, but standing. You want to come up?
Sure, I'll do it.
All right.
Bring it on.
Now, before you get up to the stage, I want you to look into the. Yeah, when you get. Come on up.
I want my 15 minutes of fame.
I can't give you 15 minutes, but I can give you fame.
Okay, I consent to anything we do in this video.
Okay. Now, when you're doing something, well, we know what you meant. Okay, the wider your feet are apart, the longer the lever arm is when you're doing something for your core. The closer they are together, the more you have to use your core to control your balance. Does that make sense to you?
Okay.
So put your feet together. First, I want to make sure you're able to stand like that. Now put your hands out like this, all the way out. Now push to the left. Okay, now push, and now let it come back. You can do that with a band, but where do you feel that? Push.
This way.
Yeah, that's your core.
Yeah.
Now go the other way. No, this way. Push. Okay, push. All right. You feel that?
Yeah.
So if you had a band, the thing that you could do a turns with a band if it's an attachment over here, and you turn, just a short range of motion. You don't want to go too far because then your spines can do that. Now, if you don't have good stability, you'd start out here by doing the turns or by just doing a static hold. Now, let me show you what I was doing with him.
Okay.
This is just manually doing it. If you have someone that can do this with you, it's like doing a bench press. Same thing when you're doing a band from a press with a band, but you're using your core.
Okay.
It has to activate in order to do it. Put your hand out, you can get wide base of support. No, this way, no.
Okay.
This way.
That way.
Okay, now, what I want you to do is do like a press. And don't lean back, now let your arm come back. No, bend it. Now press. All the way. And go back. Where you feel that? You feel that in your, you feel that in your core?
Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, now what I want you to do is, with this arm, just to even it out. Ready?
Same thing.
Go. And back. So if you had a band that you're doing that with, as long as your feet are ground base of support, you're going to work everything from your feet all the way up to your shoulders because a kinetic chain starts at your feet. Now pull. Now pull, all the way, pull, just pull. Don't lean back. Now let it come forward. And pull. Now you're using your lower back. Now if you do it with both arms, pull, row. Do you feel your back? You see your, go, pull. Pull, breathe. Can you feel your lower back supporting you, keeping your posture erect?
Feel my butt muscles.
Well, that's working too, you see? That's part of your core. Strongest muscle in the body.
Yeah.
Okay, so did I answer your question? Now watch, now just put your hands here.
Okay.
Now try to push against me. Push, push, push. Where you feel it?
The core.
Yes. Okay. The wall you can do that with as well. You can do the wall. You can do it up against a wall.
Okay.
But that's something that can be done in a seated position or standing.
Okay.
And the question that came from somebody in the back was saying, how long should somebody do that for?
Well, that's the golden question. What I like to do is I like to get up to the, if you're doing repetitions, what you can do 25 times, work your way up to that with still a little bit of energy reserve, then rest and go on to the next thing, and then the next day you may want to do a second set. But as far as holding a static hold, as long as you're breathing, hold it until you can't. And that's gonna work the muscles in here, and then time it. And then the next day you want to beat that time, or 2 days later. Try to beat that time, because exercise is a progressive thing that you're doing. You want to progress, you want to get better at it, and the better you get at it and the more you're able to do it, the more energy you end up having and the less fatigue you may have. You guys with me?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
We have a question over here.
Where is this?
I'm watching TV, and I'm seeing the young athletes and the older athletes using the agility guard. And I'm thinking, well, would that work for me?
The agility what?
The agility guard. It's a bite piece that you put in your mouth and you clamp down, and when the kids don't use it, they have less muscle strength. When they do use it, then the instructor can't push down.
I can tell you, I honestly do not know the answer to that, because I've never read anything that's had any research that it was conclusive on anything of the sort. So I would suggest that you look it up or Google it on Google Scholar.
I did.
You did?
But it didn't answer anything relative to MS.
Oh, you're talking about the wrist ones?
No, the one, the mouthpiece.
The mouthpiece, so that I don't know, because what happens is if you're clinching down on something, same thing as like when you're lifting weights. The harder you're squeezing on something, the higher your blood pressure goes. So you may want to be careful with something like that, with a strong contraction that's held for a long period of time. So that's why as a personal trainer, you're supposed to watch in every exercise somebody does is their knuckles, so they don't get white knuckles. If they're getting white knuckles, they're holding on too tight, and that increases their blood pressure, and it can be dangerous. So you just have to be careful and know when you're reading something, where the source is coming from and what the conclusive evidence is. Yes?
Do you have any information on active isolated training? I've heard that's supposed to be good for MS, but I don't know really what it is.
Yeah, that's the active isolated training. She wants to know if I have any information on active isolated training. And is that, you mean as a form of stretching? That is a type of stretching that uses what's called, it's a stretch reflex that you use to gain range of motion. And there's many different things. There's muscular activation technique, isolated active stretching, and what's called a PNF stretch, which stands for proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. That's the type of, just think of it as PNF. And what that is when you're doing something like a stretch. I'll show you, let me see. If I was laying here, anybody want to volunteer that you can do the stretch on me? Who wants to come up and be the assistant? Anybody? Please, I'm getting tired.
Don't bang the microphone.
The microphone's right here.
That's good. Don't bang it.
Boom. Okay, come here. Okay, this is something that this is something you want to find somebody that's a professional to do with you. You may not want to do it on your own at home, but I'm going to show you to show you what a PNF stretch is. Okay, what I'm going to have you do is don't worry, you're not going to hurt me. I'm not going to let you, grab my leg right here. Okay, now what I want you to do is push my leg back, okay? Yeah, now let's say that's my furthest I can go. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, in theory, is I'm going to press against you for about 7 seconds, and you hold it right there. Now push it more. There you go. Now hold it there. Okay, now you see how I went back into a further stretch? That's what a PNF stretch is, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. Now I'm going to press against you again. Now press again. You see how my muscle got even more stretched? Do you want to do more? Use both hands. Press. And push. You see? Okay, so that's one of the ways that they do that type of stretching and that type of technique. So what it does is temporary relief for the most part, but it can increase your range of motion and help from gaining or creating contractures in your joints and tendons. But have you ever done it?
No, I was just going to get a DVD that shows you how to do it. I didn't know.
I'm skeptical of a lot of things that show you how to do things when you're on your own, because you run the risk of hurting yourself. So it's best to find somebody who's, educated in the field. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Do you ever think you could stretch someone that much? But you see, it really does work. It really does. PNF stretches do work, but they're very dangerous, so you have to be careful when you're doing them.
Does that help for the balance too?
It can. I mean, it's probably better for the person pushing on the stretch than the person getting the stretch with balance. So go ahead.
Can you tell us what a good way is to go about finding a physical therapist that's familiar with MS?
Yes. Yes. You're a neurologist. You talk to your neurologist and you ask them who do they feel comfortable with you working with. And if you trust your neurologist, you should trust the person that they're referring you to. As far as a personal trainer, I am a member of the National Strength and Conditioning Association. I was a former state director here. There is a place on their site, which is NSCA-lift.org, I believe. Or you can probably just type in National Strength and Conditioning Association, NSCA, and they have a personal trainer finder. And they're top of the line when it comes to using personal trainers. They're educated. They have to take a very tough test, and it's a great organization to follow when it comes to exercise and personal training. All right, well, thank you guys so much for coming out. I want to thank Stuart for having me. These programs cannot happen without him, and more important, they cannot happen without you. So the next time I see you, I'll have some new material for you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jeff. New toys. Yeah, he'll have new toys. By the way, May 6th, for those that don't know, May 6th, we're doing a program in Cocoa. May 13th, we'll be in Sunrise. May 14th in Boca Raton. May 26th, Indianapolis. Okay? June something, something, something. They're all over the place. June 3rd, Altamont Springs. That's close enough, all right? That's for women. That's a women's health issues with multiple sclerosis. So if you're not registered for that, and if you're a woman, okay, that will be the program for you. And any men that happen to be there during Q&A, we have to vacate the room. Okay? It's their time. It's for their program. So, firstly, again, I want to thank you all that are here today, and those that are remaining, great, thank you. By the way, is there anybody new to MS in this room today? There was earlier. Okay. Well, so we hope that you use our website, use the information that's found there, pass it on to people that you know that also have MS, and as well as the healthcare community. Again, though, first, I want to thank all of you for being here. I've said this before. I want to thank those that are volunteers that come out to help at all of our programs. We have a list of people. We also have people here that are board members, future medical advisory people that have been here, our attorney who likes to speak, as you heard, and me, because I like to talk too.